everyone. This is Dimensions of the Supernatural. I'm Maureen Grudzinski, otherwise known as a Little Witchy, and I'm here with my great co-host, Anthony Simonelli, otherwise known as...
Hey, Mr. Fuhgeddaboudit, how you doing tonight?
How is everyone? Hi, Zach. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Ron. We have a couple other people here, and we'll probably be seeing more people coming in. We have some fantastic guests, as always. We have Scott Porter and Stephanie Burke, who we love very much. They will be coming in just a few moments. We're having some technical difficulties.
Here comes. Oh. Hey, okay, somebody's
popping
in.
Sorry about that.
Hey, hey, brother.
Man, hold on. Let me see if I can get some more volume here where I can hear you.
How you doing?
I'm not bad. I'm sweating like crazy right now. I had my earbud in my ear, and I had to do something. I jumped up, and when I did, I pulled everything off my desk. Like microphone, Yeti goes flying, iPad goes, everything went flying. So I was like, oh my gosh.
That is never a good start.
All right, let me see. I need to be in horizontal view, don't I? Let me see. If that.
We'll just do the show sideways.
Perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Good.
Let me check on Steph. We were talking through some stuff and in some deep conversation, and she said, "Oh my God, we have to do this show in 30 minutes." And I said, "You're lying, right?" So we were both in a mad day. We had to reschedule a bunch of stuff, so everything's kind of off. So I am so sorry.
No, you're good.
We're finally glad that you actually make it here.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I am too. I'm trying to figure out why I'm having trouble hearing you guys. It's like really, really quiet. Let's see if it's my microphone.
Person.
Something could have gotten trashed when I.
Oh my God! I put too much lemon in my water. I'm kind of choking.
Hey, if Steph was here, she would be like, Mercury's in retrograde, so everything.
Oh, it's been so weird.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's very weird.
Horrible. I'm trying to find out.
There she is.
Oh, there we go.
Here she comes.
I found my volume.
Where is she? Okay. Oh my God, we're talking about you.
Weird.
I put too much lemon juice in my water. I was like, I'm going to choke to death. And he just said, she's going to tell you it's Mercury in retrograde. I said, it's been so weird.
Well, it's also eclipse season, so that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's it. We'll just blame it on the aliens.
Like, I just went to turn on my ring light. I got nothing.
Oh, same here. What the heck? Look.
It's dead.
It's dead. I just tried to.
Wait, do you have the same one that I do?
Yeah, we have the same exact one. We bought them same time.
It's gone. It's done.
And
it won't turn on.
We just had like an earthquake on the East Coast, and I mean, you guys, I don't know if you felt it or not, but
I didn't feel it. No.
The one in New York.
Yeah. No, that was wild. My first earthquake.
First earthquake.
Yeah, it was my wife and I sat on the couch, and the couch starts moving, and being a paranormal investigator, my wife. Because our dog just passed, and she's going, "Is Daisy behind the couch? Daisy?" I think it's the dog, and the couch is actually going like this. I'm like, "What the hell?" The TV was going. I mean, and nothing really happened, but it was like a crazy moment. But right away, we thought it was something moving the couch.
Yeah. You're like it's Daisy Saurus because she's come back as a dinosaur and moving.
Yeah. She was a miniature Dachshund. My wife is moving the couch. I said, I don't think it's Daisy.
No,
I don't.
That big, I'd be a little nervous.
True.
It could move me and my wife on the couch.
I'm still not centered up. It's like my camera's looking up at me. I don't know.
At this point, I have no idea. I don't have a ring light. I got no lighting. I have a pinched nerve, so I can't move that fast, guys. Sorry. So this is.
We'll make up for it.
This is what we got.
You're here. That's all that. I've been trying to get you guys with us for what, years?
It's been forever. Well, yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I had to reschedule on you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we both come down with like some type of plague. I'm talking like
it was horrible
chest and trachea and everything was just all irritated and Like I could walk up a flight of stairs and couldn't breathe, and we all tested negative for COVID. So we have no clue what it was.
It's been crazy here too. Everybody had COVID, then the virus, that like the stomach thing, and now I don't know what's going on with me. I think it's like how Steph said, like the retrograde with the eclipse and the whatever. I'm just like, I can't see out of one eye. My head's spinning. I have a terrible headache. Everything. It's just weird.
A little bit of everything going on.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So besides that, how is everyone?
Let me turn this way. Maybe this will work better.
Okay. You guys got to see the eclipse?
Yeah, let's more just that way.
You got to
we did not.
No, it was cloudy.
It was very cloudy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've seen them years ago, but
where we were,
it's pretty cool. Yeah, then it got cloudy, and it was like halfway through, and then it got cloudy over here, so you couldn't see the full effect. But it got dark. So
yeah,
it did get dark. So that was interesting.
Well,
we just saw clouds.
Did anything weird happen while you were in the eclipse?
Everything always happens weird here. I don't know about anyone else.
I'm in New York.
Everything weird happens there.
Yeah, I'm in New York.
How about you guys?
Leading up to it, we had earthquakes and plagues.
Yeah.
It's like leading up to it. Yeah, we had the earthquake and a bridge collapsing not too far.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff going on.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And then there was another one. There was a boat that the lights went out in Philly, but it didn't hit the bridge. And then there was another one I heard in Oklahoma.
That's right. Yeah, there was one that hit a bridge out there somewhere, wasn't it?
Yep. I think it hit the bridge in Oklahoma, but the one in Philly didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, the one in, I think, was Maryland where the other one hit.
Baltimore, yeah. That was tragic.
Yeah, that was rough.
The weather is affecting everything. The zodiacs, everything. Everything's affecting us.
Everything's a mess.
And there's alignment of planets coming and everything. So yeah, we got a lot of things headed this way.
It's just going to get crazier.
I mean, the astrological stuff happens every year. People just don't realize it. But
or they don't believe it.
Well, that too.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a perfect storm of things that happen at once that really inconvenience people. But it really depends on the planet and constellation placements in your own personal charts. That's why it's different for everybody. So.
Yeah. Well, the craziest thing for me is I'm going to be a grandfather in a couple of weeks. So.
Well, that's exciting.
Hey, congratulations!
Thank you. Having a boy.
I must have missed that one.
Yes, I is.
I'm on social media and I look and I glaze through it and I find a recipe that I want to try and cook. And I move on.
Hey, whatever it is. So, my brother Gerard, I don't know if you remember him. Yeah. His birthday today.
Awesome.
They took him out for dinner, so he's gonna try to pop in for a couple minutes and say hello.
Awesome.
On the
well, if not, please tell him we said happy birthday.
Yes. Yeah. Happy birthday, Gerard, when you watch the show. How about that?
Yeah. When he comes out, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
for sure.
Great. They took him out to dinner tonight, so I'm here with you guys.
Sweet.
I'm missing a barbecue dinner.
Oh. You could have gone.
I told him that.
We're not that exciting.
No. It doesn't. I mean, I'm here with you guys.
I mean, we're not exciting except for when I stand up with my earbud in my ear, pull my Yeti and my iPad off the floor. Everything's a mess.
I wish I actually saw that. That must have been interesting to see.
If it would have been live, you'd have been like, "Holy cow, what's going on over there? Earthquake!"
It's another earthquake. Earthquake down there. What's going on? Yeah.
Oh my god.
So what have you guys been up to lately? I mean, we just saw, the Ghost Asylum, which is what we were waiting to have end before we could see you again.
Well, Secrets of the Asylum.
Secrets of the Asylum.
I'm sorry, Secrets of the Asylum. I have paper in front of me and I can't see. I lost my vision in my left eye, and I really
Secrets. I took notes.
You took notes.
It's ghosts.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
Secrets of the Asylum. I mean, I haven't seen the show yet. It came
What?
out.
It's really cool.
I'm
You
sorry.
have to watch it.
Yeah.
What's it?
Yeah.
What's on Travel or is
It's
it-
on
what's
Fox
it-
Nation.
Yes.
It's a
Fox
great show.
Nation. Ah.
Now, if you are law enforcement, EMS, military, former military, you sign up, you get a year for free. So
Really?
they take care of our first responders and military.
Yeah.
But you can get on there and sign up. You get I think it's still, you get a week free. So you can jump in and watch it. They've got
Yep.
some other cool content on there. But yeah, I mean, it was an adventure, and it was one that we got to do the way that we wanted to,
Right.
which is
That's
which
right.
is even better.
Mhm.
So the investigation, the research, how we approached it, everything was done the way we wanted and thought that it should be done.
Mhm.
So I felt like it turned out really well.
That's awesome because you don't usually get the option when you're doing.
Correct.
There's always somebody trying to tell you and point to you and tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a chance to do it yourself and you know it's done right,
Yes.
you put
Yep.
your mark on it. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the big deal thing there when we got to do it. We wanted to do it our way, and the best part about the show is it wasn't like we were there for just a little bit of time and then took off down the road. We got to spend, how long were we there, babe? Like 6 weeks or something
Yeah.
like that.
Wow.
So we got to totally immerse ourselves into the location and what was there. So that was very helpful for the investigation and very helpful for us to really create relationships with the energy that was there.
Mhm. I mean, doing an investigation for that long, that's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And you get to approach it from a different level and dig in a whole lot deeper.
Mm. Yeah. And you get to do it your way.
Yeah,
That's the
that's the
best
thing.
That's the thing. Yeah. So,
But what you saw on the show,
Well, he didn't see it.
I didn't see it yet.
that's right. You didn't.
I got to see it. No, I got.
Well,
I've seen
now,
everything
see,
else you've been in, so
now
I'm sorry. It's the only thing I haven't.
the
Sorry.
one you missed out is the greatest.
Yeah.
It makes me not even want to tell you about it now because you've got to go watch it. It's like
Yeah.
you're really missing out. But
I promise I will watch it. I mean, if you want to talk about it, there might be people in the audience that did see it.
oh,
We'll
absolutely.
be right back.
Well, if they
Okay.
have any questions about it, we can definitely answer them. But we don't want to spoil it for you guys
Okay.
if either of you have seen it yet.
But there's some. I mean, like you have to look at it like with the way we approached this was we went in and we didn't go in with a preconceived notion.
Mhm.
We went in with a blank slate. We kind of knew where we were going, but we didn't research it in depth. Steph didn't
No.
research it all.
You knew where we were going. You got to know everything.
I did.
I just showed
I
up.
did. You just showed up. But going in like that is it kind of gives you that blank slate to start with.
Yeah.
So, we knew a little, I knew a little bit. Steph didn't know anything except for we're going to Detroit. We're going to investigate this place.
Yep.
So it was really cool to be able to see her interactions and how she worked with the energy there
Mhm.
and what those raw interactions brought us as far as evidence and how we were able to dig into those particular interactions and find elements in history that supported what we were experiencing. So that was really cool. And then,
Yes.
of course, once you see the show, you'll see where we dug into it and were actually able to rewrite a piece of the history that was there.
Yeah. I mean, can the place it's a known place or it's a new
Yes.
place? It's a known place.
Yes.
You be able to tell us that without
Yeah.
spoiling
Yeah,
anything? Because
yeah,
I know we
because
got
it's
investigators in the audience.
It's
People
out
like
there.
to go places.
Yeah,
out of
it's,
New York, out of Pennsylvania, and everything. So
It's been public. It aired on Fox Nation. The commercials for actually were airing during the World Series and everything throughout the month of October. So it's been public since then. So we went to Eloise Asylum in Detroit, Michigan,
Mhm.
and we spent quite a quite a bit of time there trying to uncover the different layers of everything that happened there. And it was a different experience for both of us, being able to be there for as long as we were able to be there, and to work together the way that we do.
But well, you went there with a blank slate. You had no idea what was going on, so
Nope.
your abilities just when you got there was opened up. I'm assuming.
Yep. They sent me in, and I think the difference between what we were able to do compared to what we've been allowed to do in the past is our team didn't have a plan either. They just said, go in, read the place, tell us what you find out. And there was no script. There was no preconceived anything. It was just whatever we find out tonight writes the next episode.
Wow.
And it went from, that was the first step to everything that we found continued the story for us. There was nothing that, they would be like, okay, now we have to do this or that. It was wherever we wanted to go, and whatever the spirits told us is what wrote the next episode.
Oh, wow.
That's what I really loved about this show. This is so different from anything else I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And you guys really, you know what you're doing, and you can just like fly by the seats of your pants. And every episode was so different. It was just like a breath of fresh air.
Well, thank you. That's what we were looking for.
We were trying for that. Yeah.
We wanted it to be different. We wanted it to be, authentic and real. We wanted, I've always said that I love to take people along with me on the investigation. If I'm doing a show, I want people to experience what I experience and see what I see.
Yep.
And all the years of doing television and doing paranormal shows, one of the big things that I had always had a problem with was every time that you would hear something that was live action, the audience couldn't hear it, or they would put filler music in or something like that would cover up that moment, and everybody's like, well, I couldn't hear it. Well, that's because they had to recreate it.
Right.
In this show, you won't hear the music at those moments. You hear the evidence, so you get to hear what we hear down the hallway. You get to hear what we hear in the room with us, and that turned out awesome. I was so happy and glad that we were able to do that. And even like when you watch the show, the disembodied voice, that was probably one of the more pivotal pieces of evidence, in the show, that really sent us on a path of looking for, really and truly, it was a true crime that had been covered up. When it sent us on that path, that was amazing. And I do have to say, though, that when I was able to clean up that audio from that disembodied voice, that was really the only time that we had recreated a moment on the show that wasn't live action, because Steph and I were in the hotel room and I was going over the audio. She was in the shower, and I ran in the bathroom, yelled at her, and told her she had to listen to this thing right away. And so that couldn't be on TV. So we had to recreate that with her, like combing her hair or brushing her teeth or something. I don't remember what it was we did now, but we're like, she couldn't be in the shower for a family show,
That's so funny. I love how you guys work together, though. It's truly amazing. I mean, you do know each other so well, which really helps. But you're great working together as a team as well.
Yeah,
I like to think so.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that you do. I mean, that really helps.
It does help.
It's definitely a natural thing. There's no effort that's put into that. It's just how it's been since day one.
Yeah.
And it's
very
wrong.
easy.
I mean, if we're in a situation and we get aggravated with each other, it comes out. It's just the way it is. You can see some of it on the show, but after being in a location like that for so long, the location starts to weigh on you.
Yeah.
And Steph can really speak to that, because it was one of those things that she first picked up on, and as we started seeing what was happening, it was like both of us had this light bulb come on. It was like, holy cow, this is what's happening. This is why we're not agreeing, because what we were dealing with was trying to confuse us, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Like
trying to separate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jenny says having the right partner is everything. You can read each other, right, Anthony?
Yeah, Jenny's like usually my partner when we go because my wife doesn't go, her husband doesn't go. So when we go on investigations, we only two people like without their husband and wife and stuff. So we always end up together. And her and I like the same way. We can read each other, and it's really something how you could interact with somebody like that.
Yeah, you work with someone for so long, it makes it a cohesive type of relationship where you kind of can anticipate how someone's going to react or what's going to happen, and you know what to look for when things are stressful or not quite right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the one question is, how did you get into the paranormal? I'm going to ask both of you. You don't know?
I was born into it. I didn't have a choice.
Well, yeah, you probably grew up with the abilities.
I was born with everything that I deal with now. It's run in my family for 10 generations that I know of. On top of that, I was born into a very historical old home. So it was just a perfect storm for strange. Yeah. By the time I was like 3, or at least that's my first memories of asking, I used to ask my dad, like, what are all these pictures? Because he loved photography, and they looked funny because they were infrared film. And he's like, oh, I'm just looking for ghosts. And that was my childhood. He loved history. He was, my grandparents owned a travel agency. He would travel the US and he would just take pictures and tell me ghost stories from all of those times that he would travel. And I thought it was normal. The ghosts that were walking around here, I thought were just normal. Like everybody else got to do that. I didn't realize what death was until I lost my grandmother when I was 7. So it was a natural thing, but I always tell people, especially people that are curious or getting into this or wondering about it, is I wasn't given a choice. Most people choose to join the paranormal. Most people choose to go on a ghost hunt. Most people choose to make this their lifestyle. I didn't have that choice. I'm grateful that I'm passionate about it, and I'm grateful that I love it as much as I do, but there were times in my life that I did not at all. Sometimes you just want to be normal. I mean, what is normal anyways? But you really strive to just fit in, especially in high school. You just want to, go to school, do your work, go home, not see everything and hear everything. And it wasn't easy growing up that way, for sure.
Yeah, I read that you did your genealogy and you go back to the Mayflower?
The Mayflower and the Salem witch trials and many other prominent figures in the beginning of America and Revolution. So there's a lot of cool history there, and it goes so deep. I mean, when you come over on the Mayflower, you only have X amount of choices to, marry and procreate with. So, pickings are kind of slim. So you end up being related to a bunch of people that end up in a history book. So it's, I know I show Scott stuff all the time. We both love history. We both love genealogy. So we're always sharing something back and forth, like, hey, look who I'm related to this time. So yeah, it's, that's something I've known since I was a kid.
Yeah. I love genealogy myself. And my wife goes, oh, what habits you got? Looking up dead people in your past, and you go looking for dead people when you go on investigation.
I get a thing for dead people. That's all.
Hey, they don't bother me. White people do.
True.
I can't say the same.
Yeah.
Live people don't bother you?
Huh?
You say live people don't bother you?
No, I'm just saying that the dead do too. So it's really
a
toss-up.
Yeah, kind
of And I have a similarity with you, Steph. Like, I have several people that were that signed the Declaration and the Constitution, and it's really weird to like look back. I never really liked history that much until I started to find those things out. But then, being a kid, I was seeing things in my house, and I thought that was normal. And light bulbs would shatter if I was mad or whatever. And I thought
they still do.
They just get worse now.
Yeah.
But I can control my anger a little bit more. It depends. But
it depends on the situation.
So I don't think people realize that that's a thing. Like, you know.
Well, they've never experienced it before. And I think that a lot of people want to experience that
Mhm.
until they realize what it entails
Mhm.
and like what goes into it. And
Mhm.
it's hard. It's hard to already feel like you're different than everybody else. It's hard to feel like you don't fit in somewhere. Even just being the kid that likes ghosts is hard. You know, never mind, you can see them, you can hear them, you can communicate with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes just being the kid that likes spooky things or being the kid that likes history, it's already tough. So it's it's interesting. People say to me all the time, like, "Oh, I want to be just like you," and I laugh because I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" You know, or like, "I'd love to know what goes on in your head." I'm like, "I can tell you, but it's a bunch of scrambled craziness at times." Because there's, I always, you know, like those memes that you see, like I have like 25 tabs open and there's music playing somewhere and I have no idea where it's coming from. Like that's my brain all the time. Scott will tell you the amount of randomness in a conversation with him at times is like, I think probably shocking for most people, but he's a good sport. He puts up with it.
I just follow the squirrels.
Yeah, that's literally all you have to do. Like it'll be like half of a thought here and then the next topic there and then back to the original topic and then maybe like 3 more different ones. It's just it's like psychic ADHD.
That's it. I'm added to my resume, professional squirrel chaser.
Yeah.
You could.
That's I mean, you
It
know,
works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot dealing with other people's energy and thoughts and feelings and dead people and everything else all mixed into one. But I always tell people, I don't know what it's like to be normal. Like everybody else, you know, you have an idea of what it's like. And if I were to teach somebody how to use your abilities, you're still starting from, you know, like a foundation or, you know, here's your base. And then you go to the extreme of whatever it is I can teach you, where mine was already turned on when I was born. So I don't get to have the normal foundation.
You can't
I don't know what it's like.
yeah.
No.
I know growing up because I have my abilities also from early ages to I got older. You know how people shut you out a lot of times, and they think you're crazy. They don't want to bother with you because you're doing all these things with ghosts and stuff like that. So I understand when growing up, I grew up as a kid in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
So that was all out, you know, taboo.
Yeah, the 90s weren't easy.
Yeah, 90s were easy neither.
No.
But when like 2000s when the show started,
Yeah,
some of the
it
shows
got a
started
little bit easier.
2004, 2005.
Yep.
That's when everybody's like, "Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah. Or
Let's
what
go
is
buy
that?
K2 and become investigators."
Yep.
That's
It
it.
still happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I see it out there. But it's interesting when people come to you and they start talking to you about what they've experienced, and you could just talk to them, and they feel like they're taking something off their chest
Yeah.
because now they realize, wow, somebody else has experienced the same thing I have, or there's other people out there just like me.
Yeah.
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 So,
That's how I felt when it hit TV. I was like, hey, somebody does what I do. Somebody likes what I do, you know?
It's like one of the things that Steph and I've done is, you know, we've gone and spoke to children, you know, I say children, you know, I'm talking, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. And it's amazing to watch them formulate their thoughts and questions as you're telling them what you do and how you do it, and, you know, and what goes on. And they have some of the most thought-provoking questions. I would say probably more thought-provoking than most adults that ask questions. It's amazing how kids think outside the box. And that goes back right with some of the stuff that Steph has talked about for years, how, you know, kids have their antenna is open, their vision is open, they can see things, sense things, feel things, and as they grow, they kind of grow out of that if it's not nurtured. And it's amazing to listen to the questions because they're so in-depth, so insightful.
Yes.
And really test us as quote unquote professional investigators or adult investigators, you know, ever what term you would like to use, because, you know, in the field you're constantly learning, and it's amazing to see how these fresh new minds are looking at what we're doing with the book of knowledge that we've already created.
Yeah, I mean, it's Yeah, the young kids, and also nowadays the kids have access to computers.
Mm-hmm.
They carry a computer in their hand.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
their cell phone, so they got access to everything. So if they have a question, they can also type it in, and or just see something on the show. You
Right.
know, that might help them out. So when they come to you and they see, I mean, and then and they start their, it's interesting, like you said, some of the questions and how they feel that they're, because some of the parents I know at the Paracons, the kids come up to you and start talking, the parents are like, oh yeah, it's like their imaginary friend or type of thing, and the kid talks, she goes, oh, there's something in my car, there's this and this, and you talk to the kid and just try to make him feel that he's not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, everybody tried to make us feel crazy because we did what we did, spirit and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I can remember growing up and everyone said that ghosts weren't real. Yet everyone around me had a ghost story. And I'm like, okay, so if you say ghosts aren't real, why do you have a ghost story?
Right.
It's kind of contradicting yourself there. And I see it like that now, but back then I was like, okay, all right. And I'm like, well, why don't I have a ghost story? Why don't I have something like this that's happened to me? And I didn't have anything like that I could, put my finger on until I got in college. And that was such a phenomenal real live experience that, it kind of triggered me, put me on this path of what is it we're dealing with, because I don't think my first, and I'll call it paranormal, I don't know that it was legitimately a ghost. I don't know that I don't know what it was. It looked like my mother. I've told the story, hundreds of times, but I woke up, I was back home at my parents' house from college, and I woke up in the morning, and I got out of bed, I could smell breakfast. I walked down the hall, I looked in the kitchen, I could see my mother standing there in a pink house coat cooking breakfast. I could hear the skillet sizzling, I could hear the exhaust fan running. I could see that she was wearing that pink house coat. I could smell those breakfast smells and hear the things going on. So I went to the restroom, got cleaned up. And when I come back out, there was no smell, no sound, no nothing. And, and normally, like if they were leaving to go somewhere on the farm or going somewhere else, they would leave me a plate in the microwave if I was home or in the oven or whatever. So I looked and there was nothing there. Didn't even think about, the stove wasn't hot or there was no dishes in the sink or everything was cleaned up so quickly. I just went and looked right downstairs to see if I could yell for them and find out where they went to. And I saw that their car was gone. So I knew that they weren't on the farm. They had to go somewhere else. And so I called my dad and I was like, hey, where's breakfast? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, where's breakfast? I said, I just got up. I was going to eat breakfast. Where'd you put it? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course, my dad, he's hard of hearing. And so my mom grabbed the phone, got on the phone. She's like, what are you trying to ask? And I said, breakfast. I just got up and you were cooking breakfast. I was going to eat breakfast. She goes, I'm not cooking breakfast. She goes, we've been gone all morning. I'm like, what do you mean you've been gone all morning? She said, we're in Bowling Green shopping. I said, no, you were just standing here at the stove in a pink house coat cooking breakfast. I mean, I just got up and saw you. She goes, no, we've been gone since like 6 a.m. She said, we're all the way up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. She said, number one, I don't own a pink house coat. And number two, if somebody's in that house cooking breakfast, you need to get out and call the police. And so
now, what would you think that
That's
is?
a breakfast
I mean,
taster.
obviously still moving.
correct.
Is it a time lapse? I'm so sorry, guys, with the dogs.
That's fine. I'm just trying to trouble
They're
hearing
not
you.
happy.
No, the neighbors are idiots.
I don't know what it could have been because there were so many dynamics going on at that moment. So number one, my mother is alive and still is. So what was I looking at? The house we were in was a new home that they had just built. The appearance was so much like her, like it was uncanny. It was her. I looked and I saw it, it was her. I recognized it her. My mother had me tell that story over and over and over when family would get together and start telling ghost stories or whatever. She'd say, tell them about your ghost that you saw. And I'm like, well, I don't really know if it's a ghost or not. And so then I remember down the road, I was telling the story and I think my grandmother had passed away at that point. And I said something about, I got to the part about the pink house coat. It was a quilted pink house coat. And my mom said, oh my gosh. she goes, I just remembered something. I was like, what? She goes, your grandmother made me a quilted pink house coat when your father and I got married. And I was like, well, that's weird. So, it's like no, she couldn't remember where it was. It's been lost for years, or being gone for years. So, that thing was no longer in the house and no longer around. I had never seen it, and she had forgotten that it had been gone for so long. So, what was it? Was it a some sort of time slip? Was it some type of parallel universe? Was it some type of doppelganger, or was it something, something else? I don't know, but it was so vivid and so real. There was no way that I could ever forget any element of. I mean, I could literally hear the spatula scratching the skillet as she was cooking. That was the part that was crazy. It resonated so strong with me, and I could smell all those breakfast smells. And even hear the exhaust fan. That was another part that just blew my mind. I was like, that exhaust fan was running. So it's really hard to say, because I don't think it falls perfectly in any bucket that we know in our world. So it's very interesting.
You heard like somebody was there. So it could have been sleeping time. It could have been a doppelganger. It could have been a couple of things. Yeah. And you can't specifically say what it is.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't fit neatly in any bucket that we, as the living, have created.
And you've never seen it again. So,
I say I've never seen it again. I did see. It was years later. I did see a woman walking down the road that I thought, well, that looks like Mom, but when I passed her, I thought that was weird. I looked in the mirror and she wasn't there. So that's the only 2 times that I've ever seen that particular, I'll call it an entity. So it is strangeness.
Yeah. Maybe it could be like a family member. How long you have the farm? Was all the generations on that farm? Or was just
no, it was bought in 1978. I mean, but it belonged to several other families before, and it was larger. There's several trees on the property that are probably pushing 250, 275 years old. So there's a lot of witness trees, several witness trees. I'll put it that way. But many of them are gone, but there's several left. There's lots of evidence of westward expansion here. I mean, there's an old wagon road that runs across the property that is very resembles the Oregon Trail. So if you go out and look at the Oregon Trail, it's it's rutted out and it's about the width of a wagon. That's the same thing here. We've got a wagon trail that goes across the farm. It's probably about 8-10 feet wide, and maybe in some places 6-8 feet deep. So
that's interesting.
There's
a lot of history that went through there.
A lot of history went through there.
Was anything with any of the Civil War or anything going through there?
Yes. There have been muskets and pistols that have been found on the property and on the neighboring property. I think one of the coolest things is when I can remember as a child when we first moved here. We were row cropping, so we were plowing and V-ripping fields, stuff like that. My dad was plowing and ripping a field. We call it the bottom. It's the creek bottom, and every time we would turn that ground, I remember my dad would always walk the ground and look for artifacts or whatever. And he had 2 5-gallon buckets full of arrowheads. I'm talking just full of arrowheads.
Ooh. Wow.
They were and just kept them in the barn. It was just one of those things you just pick up and keep them because they're cool relics. But one of the interesting things he found was out in the field as he was plowing, he hit 2 really huge ash pots, like where fires had been for years and years and years. So they were very large in diameter, like 8 feet diameter, and deep, like 6 feet deep. So there'd been a lot of ash fires have been burned there for a long time. So it was interesting.
Native American.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Wow. Even us New Yorkers know a little bit about that.
A little bit about that.
A little bit, a little bit. That's interesting. You know, have you seen anything on your land besides that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Steph's been down here, and
Yeah.
you know, we'll walk the creeks, and it's really cool because the creeks always have fossils and artifacts that are in the creek, you know, that you'll find. And you know, I remember one time we were walking the creek, and you know, nobody right here in the immediate vicinity has horses. And all of a sudden we both were like, it smells like a horse. Like you could smell it. It just like rushed up on us, and you could smell what smelled just like a sweaty horse. And it's like something's here. I just don't know what it is. Other than probably a horse and probably native. But you know, and then there's been times when I've been on the back of the property late at night and seen things. And one time I was burning a large brush pile back there late one night, and I got ready to leave. And as I was in the tractor, as I turned with the lights went across the field, I saw what looked like four horses up on the hill with people on them. And I turned back, and of course they were gone. There was nothing there. And then I recorded a very interesting sound one night. Actually put it on TikTok. It's been played I don't know how many times now, but it's a very interesting sound, and how it moved through the not only this property but the land surrounding the property. I couldn't attribute it to human movement because it was so fast, covering a lot of ground. There was no mechanical sounds with it. Even a horse couldn't have covered this type of distance in the time that it did. And then we were trying to do some research, trying to see if it was some type of animal or bird or anything like that. And then we started looking more into the historical record. And Steph asked me, she said, "Have you ever looked into a Cherokee war cry?" And I was like, "No, I have not." And she goes, "Well, here, you need to hear this." And so she sent me a recording, and it was nearly identical. So that was kind of cool. Of course, I have Cherokee in my background, and I'm actually a descendant from the chief of the Northern Tribes. So it's kind of interesting that those things occur around us here.
Hey, Stephanie, have you experienced anything like on the land too, or have you seen? I know, being a psychic, you probably see more stuff than you want to admit to sometimes.
Sometimes it's just in passing, like I notice it, I don't say anything because it's just normal, yeah. But there's been a few times that he and I have had experiences together, whether it was in the house, whether it was in one of his other houses on the property, whether it was just walking around together. So it's always been different layers of history that we've come across. Anywhere from the Native American part to what would feel more like the farmland aspect, to past family members. So it's, I would say it's always been active for us, but it is here too for both of us as well.
Yeah.
And I think that when we're together, more happens.
So you guys probably together, like, you know, they come to you because the energy between you are a lot stronger.
You're like beacons.
Yeah.
Beacon.
And we discovered that the hard way early on.
Now that the dogs have stopped barking, I can talk a little bit more. I had my mic on mute. I'm so sorry. The dog literally took everything. This is the dog that you met in the baby carriage.
Okay.
He's no longer this big.
Right. That happens.
So we have some questions. Someone asked if ghosts are real. Are other supernatural creatures real as well? I think we know the answer to that one.
It's safe to assume.
Yeah, and that's funny because my answer to that question, I get asked that question a lot for some reason, and I always tell people they aren't real to you until you experience one.
Right.
Once you experience it, then you know, because taking someone else's word for it, you know, that's great and good, but until you experience it, you don't have any idea what you're dealing with or what you're feeling or what you're seeing.
Right.
I think it's kind of like that with anything that you do, though.
We're a show me society. You know, we are like, you know, I have to see the evidence. You know, I have to have something that satisfies myself.
But not somebody else's evidence. your own
Right.
evidence.
You have to
Mhm.
have your own.
Yeah, well, there's so many people out there thinking that their evidence is evidence and anything else is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, if
Yeah.
you experienced it, but you know, I'm an open book with all that because going through the time I went through, you know, from the, you know, when people didn't believe me to now, people are starting to believe me a lot more. You know, how am I going to say to somebody, oh no, there's no other creatures out there, just ghosts, or there's
Mhm.
no UFOs, just ghosts. You never know. I mean,
Right.
Right.
you experience anything. You could experience anything. So I always
Mhm.
give people the, you know, yes, that's cool. You know, never
Mhm.
become nobody for anything. You know,
Yeah.
just you know, accept it. You know, it's being put down like you said. It's just ourselves. So
I think as we study and we learn, and I think it's one of the aspects of being a learned um, person or a learned entity. The more you discover and the more that you experience, the more you realize that there's so much more that you don't know and you don't understand.
mhm.
And that you have to continue that effort and look outside the box, because for so long, in history, we information and knowledge didn't travel as quickly and as rapidly and as freely as it does now. And and um, that's a good thing now, because it does help us to be able to communicate with one another, and it does help us to be able to contemplate ideas and either validate or question those. But then you add in the aspect of our social society, and all of a sudden now you have a means for people who desire notoriety or publication or the admiration of others to come on the scene and then present things that call into question everything else that people are doing from a genuine standpoint. And so it kind of taints the pool of knowledge for a lot of people. And I think that's the big hindrance that we have to fight is,
Mhm.
there's a good and bad dichotomy that goes along with the social media, and with our ability to be able to share knowledge so quickly, is that you have these outside people that are forces that are always looking to disrupt.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always talk a lot about, there are so many people that have written things that, like, say you have someone in China, or you have somebody in Ireland, you have somebody in Africa, and they're writing things about, say, vampires, and they look very similar when they describe them. And they wrote these things before there was any kind of telecommunication or text messaging or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're writing about the same types of things. Well, it's not the case where, okay, so he had a very creative mind, and they're talking to each other mentally. There had to have been something that would give them this idea that it's all the same,
Mm-hmm.
So something's out there that looks like these things, or leprechauns or hobbits or whatever. So there's definitely something out there, beyond the veil, that it has to be there. There has to be something there.
Oh, 100%. I think one of the first things that comes to my mind is when you look at different societies and you're talking about leprechauns, or you're talking about the Cherokee Little People, or you're talking about Hawaiians. And Steph, you're going to kill me because I'm going to pronounce this wrong.
Just
Menahune.
Menahune.
I said it.
I know.
It came out right. Oh my gosh! I
It had
shocked
a little
myself.
southern twist to it, just a little one.
I was
But
waiting
Everything.
to say it wasn't exactly the right accent at the end.
it's
Just so they
okay.
asked me to say that.
It was a large improvement.
Okay.
It was very good, I
I,
think.
I was channeling at that moment. So, but yeah, and it's like you have all these different entities, and even oh gosh, what do you call them up there, babe?
No, you don't want to try that one?
Puckwudgies.
Puckwudgies.
I was waiting for that one.
Got it. Okay. So you have all these different quote unquote small people or small in stature beings. But it's interesting that they exist in all these different areas that were, thousands of years before technology freely moved that information from place to place. Now, it's not to say that someone could not have traveled, but and brought information, but then you also had language barriers, so you had to either draw pictures and I don't think a lot of the artistic nature of things then didn't really depict what the similarities or things that we saw or the things that we see. But I think it's intriguing that they all have those types of stories in those societies, as well as giants.
Anunnaki.
And even Bigfoot, Sasquatch. You see that these stories and these tales have existed in these different areas for so long, and it was long before that free flowing information occurred. So there has to be something to it.
Well, they're all different based on geographical location.
Yeah.
Even Bigfoot is called Yeti, abominable snowman. Different things in different culture and different locations. Is it the geographical location that changes the look of it, or is it just the geographical location that changes the name of it? And it could be the same throughout everything, or it could be different. I actually had a student of mine reach out to me and ask me about skinwalkers recently, and she was having a conversation with somebody, and I can't remember where they were from, but US based, and they were getting in an argument with somebody that was in the UK because the UK was using the word skinwalker, and they were trying to say that skinwalker is just a thing that's very specific to the US, but it's technically not specific to just the US. It's specific to where the particular tribe is that came up with the word skinwalker. And that's just the Americanized version of it. So that was a whole rabbit hole, like what we're going down now. It's the same thing. Is it could be a similar creature or similar elemental, depending on what it is that we're talking about. But they have their own name for it. So they might not be exactly the same. They might be exactly the same. We just don't know.
Yeah. Like with Bigfoot, there's like you said, they're all over the world.
Yep.
And they're different colors, they're different traits and stuff.
Yep.
Maybe they have to adapt to the location that they are in. That's why they look and smell all these different things. Because they had to adapt to the location. Like us as humans, we have to adapt to locations.
Right.
So maybe they had to adapt. That's why there's some taller, some smaller, and they're brown. They have
you look at
white, and the Yetis and stuff like that.
What if they're aliens?
Yeah.
Well, listen, you had to.
Yes.
I was going to talk about poor little bunny rabbits, and here you are talking about aliens.
You can talk about bunny rabbits, but what if they're aliens and the reason they stink is because they've been in their ship for so long that they just smell?
Yeah, they don't have deodorant. The deodorant ran out.
Oh my God.
Okay, back to bunny rabbits. I'm sorry, I just went off. I went off the tracks.
All I was going to say
talk
was
about both.
if you look at little bunny rabbits, they look different in different geographical locations. Some are to adapt to those surroundings, so they hide better.
Right.
Yeah. If something as simple as a bunny rabbit can do that, why can't something that has supernatural abilities do that?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know.
They really change.
Yeah. No, you and your aliens.
I'm just saying. I mean,
Steph does not believe in aliens.
I hate aliens.
Hate's a very strong word.
It is a very, very strong word.
She doesn't use it often, but whenever you mention aliens, she uses the word hate.
That's when she uses it. Yeah.
That's when she uses it. She's like, I hate.
I am good. It is not my thing. Like those people in the paranormal that just have to be an expert at everything. I don't care. Don't send me the aliens.
That's the one thing you don't even want to talk about.
I don't even care.
But it's like you shouldn't say you hate them because you know they're listening.
which is fine. Just leave me in my bed and I'm good. Let me live my life.
They'll duck you and take you away.
No, none of that.
You
I'm good.
You don't want that.
There's better options, I promise.
They're messing with everybody's voices. Everybody sounds synthesized now.
Synthesized? Okay.
Yeah, you just sounded synthesized and your voice changed.
It's the aliens.
Goofy wants to know, Porter, do you have any issues with Native American spirits?
Do I have any issues with them?
Yes.
Oh, no, not at all. Actually,
No.
It's interesting. One of the locations here in Tennessee that I've always been attracted to for some reason, even before I got, really into the paranormal, everyone else talked about how they felt uncomfortable or uneasy at this location. And it's a frontier home. It's built in 1798. The Winchesters lived there. They settled in the area. It was considered one of the grandest frontier homes of the land at the time. Its walls are 24-inch thick, crab orchard stone. It's an amazing home. It's built on what I found out later was it's built on Cherokee hunting land. And for years I would go there and I felt at home. I felt welcome. I felt like I could go inside and just lay down and go to sleep. It felt like that to me. And everyone spoke of how haunted it was and how everything always caused mischief and problems. And even a friend of mine who was the curator of the museum there had problems for years and years and years. But for some reason, when I would go there, I always felt at ease. I had no idea that I had any relation to the Cherokee Nation. And, it was funny because as I started going down that road of discovering that, the things that led me to find it were very intriguing, because I was doing some genealogical research and I got to my great-great-grandmother, and I couldn't find any information about her. It was like her family didn't exist. I was trying to track down info. And my grandfather said, I was at his house one day before he passed, and he was in his 90s then. And I said, Pap, I get back to Granny Cat, because that's what we knew her as, was Cat. And I said, I have a hard time. I can't find anything out about her. I said, I'm having a real hard time. He said, well, you're not going to find anything out. And he said, we didn't talk about her. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't talk about her? And he said, she was full-blood Cherokee. And I was like, what do you mean she was full-blood Cherokee? Because nobody knew this. He was the last living human on Earth that knew this. And no one else knew it. My mother didn't know it. Her brother didn't know it. Her sisters didn't know it. Nobody knew that. And all of his brothers and sisters are gone. He was the last one. And as I started digging, I started finding little pieces of information that kind of led me back to where she came from and how they married into the family to avoid the Trail of Tears. And then tracking it back, there's still a few gaps that are missing that I need to get back on it and try to see if I can fill those gaps. But I could make some connections based on certain things I would find that said that they were the great-granddaughter of so-and-so, or great-granddaughter of this person, or granddaughter of this one. And so I was able to make those jumps, and it took us all the way back to a very prominent Cherokee chief here in Tennessee and in northern Alabama and Georgia that was named Hanging Maw. And I never knew that. So it was interesting to me to find that out. And then, of course, the whole DNA testing thing came out, and I'm like, yeah, I'll DNA test and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Sure as shooting, man, it came back, and there was a touch of what it said was indigenous. And what was the other one in there? It was indigenous and something else that was kind of odd.
You had a lot of odd.
Yeah, it was alien. It was alien.
No.
I can't remember what it was. It was something else that came up that was kind of strange.
It's such a good comment, but I can't publicly.
You can't. It was from, but it was from the Southern Americas, So it was kind of cool to see that showed up. And of course, then as testings changed and stuff, some things filtered out, but that indigenous blood piece still stayed in there. Of course, then if you go to anyone and ask, they'll tell you that there's not enough samples to truly show the indigenous blood. So they're kind of taking a piece that doesn't fit it neatly into a bucket, and they're saying, okay, this is probably where it goes. But it's neat to have that along with the story that my grandfather told me. And then, up until that point, all I knew about Granny Cat was that she cussed a lot and dipped snuff. And, that's all I ever knew.
Yeah, they don't keep records like that. I mean, unless it's within the land.
Well, and they wouldn't keep records at that point of something of that nature because they were trying to hide it. So they completely, and I think a lot of people don't understand unless you really do the research how horrible it was for the indigenous people, for the Cherokee, for others, and that were driven out. I mean, they literally had to, in order to survive, they had to give up everything that made them them. I mean, even on the census records, when you look that up, you'll see that some of them placed in their race that they were Black Dutch. And the reason they did that was because no one knew what Black Dutch looked like. So they could write it down and be, oh, okay, they're Dutch, and move on. Wow. Yeah, it was so strange.
That's
of course,
interesting.
then, they gave up their names. They gave up so much. I mean, like there's another woman who was an aunt of mine back in the same period that we've kind of connected them a little bit. At one point we thought they were sisters and we're not really sure, but her name was Virginia, Tennessee. And that was her actual name. And it's on her tombstone. She's actually buried right across the hill behind the house here. And I can take you to her tombstone. It's Virginia, Tennessee. So it's interesting when you start digging into your genealogy and you find out who you came from, where you came, and then it makes you look at some of the that were odd and strange that occurred to you, maybe supernaturally or in the paranormal. It kind of starts to put the pieces of the puzzle together and explain why you have certain experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And like Steph's background, people would have hidden that before, and now people are like, oh yeah, I want to be related to a witch. They're so ready to like announce that.
Yeah, I have a lot of documentation from the 1700s and 1800s from my family. They didn't really hide it. They just hid it behind organized religion. So like they were still Catholic, Protestant, but all of their diaries and everything else, like they wrote about how people would come to their home looking for spell work, looking for healing, looking for readings. It just wasn't like out in public. So it was interesting to see how rebellious.
But they probably did it in the way that the women, like that was just, it was the Salem witch trials, and it wasn't really a witch. They were healers, and they were just being accused.
Well, the generations that I have would have been probably about 100 years after the Salem witch trials. So 100 years is a long time for that image to change in society. I think the aspect of, they weren't really witches, or they might have been something else, really came later on. I think even within our last 100 years here, people want to have a explanation as to why this happened, because it's one of the most famous portions of history. Because when you look at it from an outside lens, as if they're not witches, it's a horrific thing that occurred. People want to blame it on the mold in the bread. That made people, crazy. That's been debunked too, but that's actually a really popular theory that people hold on to. If I read the accounts of my relatives that were hanged and even captured, because I have both, the reasons why they were accused are wild. There's one of them that I was reading to Scott at one point, and I'm like, there's absolutely no way you can't tell me that this woman had some sort of ability, because of the stories that were told, as to like
So-
what's going on.
How many people actually related to?
Two that I am solid about. But I am sure that if there's two, there's more.
There's more.
Yeah.
Same thing with pilgrims. There's a whole long list of pilgrims that I have to verify. And I laugh because, like I said, they only had so many options to procreate. So they were busy.
Yeah.
But I have Native American too, but that's not documented anywhere. And the only option that I would have would be the pilgrims that came over.
Mhm.
So, but they wouldn't have talked about that. They would have kept
Of
that under
course not.
wraps.
They
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
can't talk about that.
So,
And it was
Well,
cold in the winter, and you had to keep warm somehow.
Yeah, quick run.
I
into
mean-
the woods.
it's not a bad option.
There's a fire in the woods.
Yeah.
Quick run in there. Get your hands warm. I'm sure that like I will find something, and I've been doing genealogy, but my family came from England to like the North England, like New England states,
Yep.
and like Virginia, and there's definitely something there because it's just like a tingle when you get into the Salem area. There's and definitely in the Philly area. As soon as I got in there, it was definitely a different feeling.
I mean, where there's so much history and there's so much that's happened, it's not, it's, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but to me, it's like, it's a no-brainer that there's so much energy collected in one area. Something like Salem, the wonderful witches of Salem have done so much good when it comes to keeping Salem the way it is and keeping it alive. You know, I know Lori Cabot has, Christian Day has, and I think that really makes it as special as it is too.
Yeah, it's hard to spend time there, knowing what you know and see everyone, you know, running around with witch hats and capes. And you have that feeling of dread in your stomach, just knowing what happened there.
Yep.
It's not for entertainment. It's not, I mean, clearly you're there to also have fun, but just the feeling of getting sick to your stomach, knowing what happened to these people. It was a terrible feeling being there for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because tourism keeps things alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scott is probably sitting there thinking he's heard me say this about 1,000 million, maybe more times. When it comes to who I am and my culture, people every single day, no matter where I go, turn my culture into a fun thing or a job or a way to become famous or a way to have some type of lucrative income. They wake up and they're like, I'm a witch. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a witch because I went and I bought crystals. Okay, great. If you want to be, learn from a legitimate source. That's wonderful. I think it's something that everybody can learn, and that's great. But why do you want to learn it? And I say that to people all the time. Why do you want to learn it?
Don't do it because you want to make yourself interesting.
Yep.
Do it because there's something deep inside of you that's who you are.
Yep. Or maybe it's part of your ancestors' culture, and that's wonderful too. And then the psychic medium aspect, which I'm sure you've dealt with too. I want to be a psychic medium. Okay, great. Why? What is your reasoning? What is your why? And some people have an absolute legitimate reason. You know, they've experienced as a child. They want to do this. They want to do that. Some people think that it's the key to making all kinds of money. Some people think it's the way to become the one different person on your paranormal team, or the one thing that sets you apart from everybody else trying to be casted on a TV show. And that stuff will forever drive me crazy. Because like
You're
I said,
never going to make money off of this. You're not going to be famous. You're not going to be more entertaining than anyone else.
I mean,
Someone will
I get
stab
it.
you in the back and stab you in the face at the same time.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes on, and I mean that's why I keep to myself most of the time. But it's tough for me because again, it's something that ran through my family for so long. It's something that my ancestors survived. That's the reason I'm sitting here right now is because like part of them survived in order to, land me here, despite being different. Having it passed down to me, and it's like a weird responsibility, and I tried to run from it as far as I could. I didn't get very far at all. It quite literally haunted me until I agreed to it. So I used to tell people if I could scrub the psychic off of me with a bar of soap, I would have.
Really? Would you?
Huh?
You would?
I would have at some point in my life. Yes.
I wouldn't, but
it tortured me as a preteen.
Yeah, that's about what it was for me too.
When I was 12 in middle school, first of all, middle school sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Like, so does high school. And I was already shy. And, my friends would write me little notes and I would write back. And everything I wrote back, because, cell phones weren't a thing back then. You had to put the little note in the locker and hope that your friend got it in between periods and they didn't get it too late and they could write back on time. And yeah. Now text messaging makes life so much easier. But during that time, I would write, advice and it would all come true. So they used to call me Fortune Cookie. And I didn't understand what I was doing at that time. And it just got worse from there. It grew as I grew. I would have to make excuse after excuse after excuse as to why I was so socially awkward. And I could tell you what you were thinking before you said it out loud. I would finish your sentences for you. I would say the same things at the same time as you. And then never mind adding dead people to the mix.
Yeah.
That was just like a whole other level of absolute insanity that I'm like, I want to just stay home and hide. If I just throw a blanket over my head, like I don't have to deal with any of it. And it really does. It makes you want to be a recluse. It makes you want to just kind of like hide from the world and be like, no, I'm, I don't enjoy being different and I'm fine. But, hell, I remember the first time somebody posted about me being a psychic medium on Facebook. I was probably 19.
Mm-hmm.
I had a meltdown, like a full-blown panic attack. Like, please don't tell people this. Because I just wanted to fit in. And I was okay doing it like at home. I was fine at home. Like every cultural ritual that you could imagine that I grew up with, I was fine with. Speaking to the dead at home, I was fine with. Please don't put it out in public. And here I am. 2 TV shows later, but
believe you, and they tell you that you're a moron. And oh, Maureen, that's not even true. This is not even real. And it's even worse yet when you finally do come out of the broom closet and you are like an active member and an active politician. When you cancel trick-or-treating because of severe weather, and then everybody does a huge witch hunt and they're putting your social media on everything to humiliate you publicly and just attack you and give you death threats. And it's just horrible. So anybody out there who's thinking that this is amazing, it's not.
There's a lot of people. And, I've been doing this long enough where it comes in waves. You have people come in, they think that they're going to be the next big psychic or the next big ghost hunter. And then when it doesn't happen, they die off and you never see them again. And it's been happening forever and ever. And it's like at this point, like it's a part of who I am. If TV died off tomorrow, if social media never existed, I would still be doing this.
Same.
I don't even care if it's just like every time Scott and I are together, I wake this poor man up in the morning with just like some random philosophical question. Like he doesn't even get to say good morning or open his eyes yet. I'm just like, like staring at him like, hi, thank God you're awake. I have this question for you. And And it could be anywhere between discussing the Bible to the paranormal to politics to like whatever it is. Or just like, why is the sky blue? Why do dogs smell funny in the rain? Like, what is it? But
why do puppies have hot dog breath?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And their feet smell like Tostitos.
Their feet smell like Cheetos.
Fritos for sure.
Fritos.
But yeah, it's he puts up with me and I love him greatly for it. But this is our relationship. Like if we just went on a road trip this past weekend, and our conversations are so deep and like into all of this stuff. Like that's what we talk about when we're alone. I always say, like, if somebody could see inside of our inner workings, in our inner bubble, they would see that we're no different when we're alone and just the two of us than we are on a television show or while we're doing a lecture in public or while we're doing something like this. Like, we quite literally both love history as much as the other one does. And the adventures that we've been on have been phenomenal, I think, because we're both on the same page when it comes to that stuff.
You're the most soft-spoken psychic I ever heard.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
You're the most soft-spoken psychic, because usually psychics I deal with, or
Yep.
we're pointing.
Would
you ever believe that I'm part Sicilian?
No.
No.
Hey, I like that. Paisan, you're paisan.
Yep. Soft-spoken. Scott can just take that away and probably talk about that for the next hour alone.
Soothing voice stuff. Like,
thank you.
I can just sit here and like, not, you don't put me to sleep. It's like a meditative kind of thing.
I know somebody that falls asleep to it all the time.
Really?
I have told her that she needed to have recordings out there where she just talks,
Like
and just meditative talk, and be like, okay, this is your sleeping talk, or this is your relaxing talk, or whatever, and just her voice, as long as she's speaking into a microphone where you can hear her, that is, that works great. If she's talking to me, it's like I have to, get the long distance radar and plug it in my ears and turn all the way up and make sure I can hear her. She's very quiet. She's very soft spoken.
When I did past life regressions in person. I haven't done one in a while, but he would be with me, and I walk people through, every step, and I would start to hear this light snoring that would turn into like this louder snoring, and I'd have to like sneak across the room in the middle of like trying to regress people into their past lives to whack him and be like, goodbye, like go, because you're gonna keep him awake.
Like, I was really relaxed. That was not
nice. But he does it all the time. He'll fall asleep on the phone with me.
Oh my God.
I think all guys do that with their wives. It's like,
not my husband, because I'm loud.
I'm not. I've never been loud. And like, part of me wishes that I was normal in that aspect too, because my poor mother has yelled at me my entire life for the same thing. She's like, I can't hear you. The only person that can hear me and hear everything I say is my brother.
That's because usually when you're talking to him, he's pissed you off. So you're yelling at that point. So,
a little louder.
I think it's just because we're almost 3 years apart. So we spent so much time, just the two of us growing up, that he's just gotten used to me and he can just hear everything I say. So my daughter's really good at hearing me too. So
well, it's because she can hear, she's young and she can still hear at those frequencies, and she picks up on that. Me, I just have to, I hear your voice and then I just make up whatever I think you might have said, and then we go from there.
You had some good ones this past weekend.
I did, but those no, not public.
I told him he has to bring back the WTF Did You Say, Babe? Because there's an entire list.
There is.
Like,
there is
an insane list that we've just never put out there.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because there are some questions here, and that's one of the things that was said, I think. So Stephanie, at what age did you know you had abilities? Sorry if you mentioned this. Wasn't able to be on at the beginning of the show. That's from Todd and Carmela.
So, what age I knew I had abilities? I had them from the time I was born. I had experiences like I can remember seeing spirits when I was about like 18 months old. I was talking about everything when I was, oh gosh, I think there's a VHS tape. I'll have to show it to you, babe, next time you come. Break out the VHS player. My parents would record Christmas morning, and I would just pick up a box and hold it and hand it back to my mom, still wrapped, and say, "Thank you, Mama, so much for buying me this." And you can hear my dad go, "Is that really what's in the box?" And she's like gritting through her teeth with anger, like, "Yes, that's what it is," because she was so annoyed that I just knew. So we couldn't have presents around me at all until I was much older. And I could like resist not touching them. So I was just this weird kid up until age 7 when I first lost my grandmother. And at that point in time, I realized what it was like to have her physically and then on the other side. And at that moment, it was just like this god awful realization of what death actually meant. And then I realized at that point that everybody I had talked to prior to that was actually dead and not alive. So it was a weird wake up call. I think I took it better than what most people would have, but I was born this way. I don't know what it's like to be normal. So
when she passed away and you felt that like disconnect from like living to not living, is that when you feel like you realize that there was like you had abilities?
I can't even say I felt like I had abilities because I didn't know what abilities were. So, and there wasn't a disconnect when she passed. It was I could see her physically one moment and then I could see her in a different form.
In a different way.
So I was like, okay, I can't, like everybody's crying and saying that you died. And there was no funeral or body or anything like that. She was cremated. So I didn't have that visualization to add to the mix. But my mom was really good at explaining what had happened, but she showed up immediately to me. And then she showed up every single night for a really long time. And I would just pass messages back and forth between her and my mom. Because my mom was way too grief stricken to deal with all of it herself. And so when did I come to the realization that I had abilities? I quickly found out that I was much different than everybody else. I would say probably in like preteen years. And I started to realize that nobody else talked about this stuff. And I remember sitting my mom down when I was probably about like 14. I'm like, okay, listen, our house is haunted. She's like, no. I'm like, Mom. And she was a nurse. I was like, you can either take me to get medication or you can tell me the truth because I have seen people my entire life. I have conversations with them. Like, this is George. This is whoever. Just going on. She just laughed out loud. She's like, okay, fine. Because she used to tell me ghosts weren't real just so I would go to sleep. Yeah. So it didn't work.
Yeah, I bet
at
it
all.
Didn't.
Nope. She knew I talked to past loved ones, and she knew the house was haunted. But she just thought like maybe if she just told me it wasn't real, I'd just sleep and I'd be fine. But that didn't work.
So she saw them as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. That's where I get my gifts from.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually handed down.
Yeah.
I know my family's been handed down also.
Yep.
I come from Sicilian family, so they all had it.
Yep.
It was more on the women's side. Because at birth, I almost died.
Yeah.
I was born, I had issues. And they had me.
They didn't go away, Anthony.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but I was
just leave it to me. I'll take care of
it. I was fighting, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that."
Yeah. So I almost died. So I think because of that, my family's all boys. So it actually went from my mother's side to me. It could be on my grandfather's side, but the men didn't ever talk about it. They also saying, guys, that was like a weakness or something. They didn't want to talk about things like that. So that's how I got my abilities through the family. So a lot of times it is passed down from generation to generation.
Yep.
You know.
Steph,
my son sees stuff.
Steph, did you have a weird birth?
A weird
Because
birth?
I almost died at birth as well.
I don't think I had a weird birth. I was upside down. I know that. And I refused to come out. But other than that, I think I was normal.
You like the womb service, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I
It
had
was
some
warm.
issues.
She hates the cold.
So yeah, it's cold out there.
I mean, I ended up in the hospital the same week I was born for like some issues, but not anything wild that,
Well,
put my
that's
life
been
in danger.
Mhm.
But, near-death experiences happen later on in life and, made things interesting. So
Yeah.
there was
So
no dull moments.
yeah. Same. Okay. What would be the common cryptid creature that might be mentioned in Tennessee from Barry Marks? Hi, Barry.
The common cryptid creature.
Mhm.
In Tennessee. Would that be like Bigfoot?
Well,
Skinwalking, no?
well, there's a little bit of all of them. I was trying to think. I literally was just digging into something, and that's why my brain is kind of fried. I was
Kinda.
digging into, yes, kinda. Where was it at? I just had it pulled up, and what I was looking at were mythical creatures known to the Cherokee Nation, and it was interesting because there were several, Bigfoot, Sasquatch being one of them. Let me see here.
I know they had the Thunderbird and all that stuff.
All of that stuff. There's like the, I mean, you hear tales of all kinds of things around. I mean, I could go and say the woman in white, the of course the little people. There's all kinds of tales when you get into East Tennessee and into the mountains. And, it's like
That's a big problem there is the Appalachian Mountains.
the Appalachian Mountains are a huge issue. With people singing or people calling to you to come to the woods and, things like that. There's
They had the blue people there.
The blue people.
Yeah,
I don't know of blue people. I don't know
Green
about that
people,
one.
I think.
No, I think they were blue, aren't they?
No green, no gray.
No green, no gray.
Really?
No, I'm talking because there was. I'm not sure if it was in Tennessee or Kentucky where it was, but they did have a group of people that were in the mountains and they had problems breathing, but they were blue. But everybody thought they were.
Oh, because the oxygen supply, probably.
Well, no, it was a pigment disorder, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't remember now because they called them blue people, but they looked almost purplish blue. It was like oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now I can't remember what caused it. It seems like there was something.
Too much white lightning.
Too much white lightning could have been it. Too much radiator lead. That kind of thing.
There's a bunch of stories about it.
But I mean, you hear things. People see stuff, hear stuff. There's the deer man. I think there's a guy who's supposed to have a deer head, a deer antlers on his head.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember all the different ones.
That sounds a lot like the Amish goat.
Oh, could be something similar there. I was trying to think. There's another one that's really just eluding me right now that it's right there, and I just can't remember what it's called. But people see things, hear things, and then there's stories that have been handed down. But I know that specifically there's probably like 10 or 12 specific creatures that the Cherokee people talked about being in the mountains of East Tennessee, and those are really cool because I was just digging into those. I think one of those was the deer head person. Deer head man. I can't remember what they call them now. Anyway, but yeah, there's a bunch of them here.
Did you on your property? Do you have any paintings from the Native Americans anywhere? No.
There's no caves here. So there's no cave art. There's nothing like that. And the sad part is that they used to use they would bend trees. So they'd find a sapling and they would bend it to where it would lay over, and as it grew, it would lay over, and then it would grow back up. And so what it did is where it grew up. So this would be the trunk of the tree. It would bend it over, and it would grow back up like this. It would point the direction of a trail, and that's how they navigated. So these trees would be around, and I can remember as a kid there were trees that were like that on the farm. And of course you had trails all through Tennessee where they would go, because these were all Middle Tennessee hunting grounds. But they would bend those trees, and that's how they knew where they were going.
No, that's interesting. I didn't even know that. I just learned something.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's cool
really
stuff.
Cool how they did that.
I mean, you get in the woods, you become familiar with the woods, and I mean, me growing up here, you get out in big woods, and it's interesting because everything starts to look the same, and you have to really, if you're not really familiar with the land, you have to figure out which way you're going. And even when you are, I mean, I used to hunt a lot up at Fort Campbell and over at Land Between the Lakes. And when you get back in those woods, you're talking 5 miles or so to the next road. And if you get in there and get turned around, it's easy to lose track of where you're at, especially when it starts getting dark, because then things start looking exactly the same, and you just don't have a full picture. Yeah. So it's nice to have those landmarks, because if they had to move at night, they had something to rely on. They could say, okay, we're here, we need to go this direction, look at the stars, look at the moon, and follow a direction, and then find another tree and say, okay, we're on the right path.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And breadcrumbs don't work.
No, those pesky squirrels eat them every time.
That's gross. The one that you're after.
That's it.
They're trying to catch you. You're trying to catch it because they're eating your the bread trail.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, one of the big ones I always talk about, and I can't believe I just forgot about this, was the moon-eyed people. And I think I talked about the little people, the moon-eyed people. And when you get down into where the Cherokee, where they live predominantly, there were stories back in the early ancestry of them where they lived across the river from each other. And some people believe that the moon-eyed people were where some of the Cherokee got their blue eyes, because some Cherokee had blue eyes.
Oh wow! Yeah,
and it was said that they were nocturnal. Their eyes were very sensitive to light, and they could see better at dark.
Okay, that's like a cat or something like that.
This is like the best history lesson ever.
I know. This is pretty cool. I mean, I'm learning something good.
So Todd and Carmela say, Maureen and Stephanie, did you notice any changes personally with increased experiences before, during, or after the solar eclipse?
Anything out of the ordinary? No.
Nothing?
Nope. But I also, Scott will tell you the same thing. Like, I follow astrology pretty closely. So we have eclipses every year. This one was a bigger deal for a lot of people because more people could see more of the actual eclipse rather than, the usual, it's happening, but we don't know it or we can't see it type of thing. But I pay attention to a lot of that stuff. So everything that does occur, I kind of just roll with. It's not like this huge ordeal for me where, it's this like life-changing thing, or at least not this one. Life-changing things can occur to a lot of people during the eclipse, because eclipses bring really chaotic energy and they're always back to back. So during that small time in between, it's complete chaos for most people. And a lot of life-changing events do happen to people during that time, but it's because they're meant to. It really does shake up what's going on. Some really catastrophic things can happen, breakups and, people exiting your life or, somebody coming into your life for a reason. So I can't say anything like that happened to me this time, but, the usual, like just the chaos. Everybody's chaotic, and we have a Mercury retrograde on top of it, so that didn't make anything easy for anybody.
Did you notice an uptick in psychic, or paranormal activity?
Paranormal, I wouldn't say any more than usual, but I was also on the road during the eclipse, so we were driving.
Okay.
We were driving for hours during that time.
Blast.
Okay.
We were driving for hours in the middle of a rainstorm,
True.
a thunderstorm. So
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Even worse.
yeah,
That's always good. So I'll see this. I'm going to investigation this weekend, so I'll see if anything amped up. So
yeah.
For me, I have an autonomic disorder, and the East Coast had the earthquake. I didn't feel it personally, but I don't know if it had any kind of like barometric pressure issues, which always starts I don't know, it starts to create issues. Plus the weather changed and, the eclipse. So that's always a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I did notice that there was an uptick also with paranormal activity in the house. There's some kind of male entity that's walking along my side of the bed, and he's waking me up, but is not giving me any information. So
that's
I don't
always
know.
fun.
Yeah, but I'm really dizzy, and I'm losing my eyesight in my left eye, and I'm terrible migraine, and I feel like I'm walking sideways, like I'm on a boat kind of, and I'm terrible on boats. So Todd's having a great time with that.
Yeah.
He's not but we are going to invest Sunday. So we'll see if that, usually when I get like this, all my senses are super, super heightened. So that should help a little, but it's not going to be good because I feel like I'm going to vomit everywhere too.
Yeah, none of that.
That's not good.
So we'll see how things go. Let's see. Scott, have you ever had an out-of-body experience where you visited your Native American ancestors?
Well, let's see. They have visited me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. The only time that I've ever had a situation where I was I felt like it was an out-of-body experience, I guess you would say, was I was driving down, I was actually driving down 840, and for some reason I was really focused on the concept of out-of-body. And was really digging into and exploring those concepts and people who had those experiences, and those who said that they could astrally project, and things of that. And so I'd been reading a lot of that. And so I remember I was driving down the road, and I can tell you exactly where I was. I was on Interstate 840 here in Tennessee, and I was passing the Renaissance Castle down there. And as I passed it, I remember there for just a split moment, it was almost as if I was looking through the window of my truck and seeing me sitting in the truck while I was driving. But yet I was driving. And when I realized that what was going on, it was like I snapped out of it. It was right. And I was back there, and I was like, holy cow, that was weird. And I didn't try that anymore. But it was intriguing that happened that way. And I can't remember who all I told about it. Matter of fact, I think I just talked about it this weekend, didn't I?
I don't remember. Maybe not when I was in the room.
I don't remember if I talked. Yeah, anyway, but it's funny because that doesn't come up very often. But I remember that one time that I did that one time. But every other experience I've had as far as the Cherokee or for the Native American goes, they've come to me. They find me. We were investigating or doing a group investigation in Virginia one time, and had no concept of there being Native Americans there or anything of that nature. And I was standing there, and we were playing an Iroquois chant, wasn't it? Iroquois war chant or something of that nature. And something happened, and I remember there was several EMF detection devices that were around me, and they all lit up, and I felt just a cold chill. And when we finished that part of the investigation, Stephanie looked at me and she said, "Did you see that?" I said, "No, I didn't see anything." And she said, "Let's try putting you down here away from everyone, and let's try this experiment again." And so I separated myself from everybody. Everybody was standing around the banisters, the balconies, and looking and watching. Everybody was around in all of the rooms. Were kind of how we did that investigation, and started playing that war chant or that music again. And there was an entity that formed at the bottom of the staircase and the only way I could describe it was, I said it looked like the Krampus. Like if not the facial features, but the overall body shape, with something coming up out of the head. And as it formed, it was more of a shadowy figure than a full color or full body figure. It was more of a shadowy figure. As it was making its way up the steps, it was coming toward me. And I remember it made me feel comfortable. Like, it didn't make me feel as though I was in danger or that I should yell or be shocked. And I remember putting my hands out in front of me and backing up against the wall, trying to give it room to come up the steps. And the only way I could describe the feeling from my hands as I held my hands out in front of me was it was as if you had a string that was all the way inside my finger and in my hands and up into my arms, and it was being pulled out toward it, like out of every finger. It was like there were spider webs coming out of every single finger. There was a lady who was standing on the balcony behind me in a doorway, and she screamed. And when she did, this entity kind of lumbered and looked up at her, and then looked back down, and then turned and disappeared through the wall. And then when Steph and I talked about it, she said the thing that came upstairs and looked you in the face was a Cherokee warrior, and he called you brother. Now, this was before I knew that I had Native American blood. And I was like, well, that's weird. And I said, the one thing that I saw come up the steps, I said, it looked kind of like a Cherokee or a Native American chief or a medicine man type of thing. And so when we found the woman who screamed, we asked her what she saw. And she said it was this Indian coming up the steps, and he looked like he was just, a chief or something. So it was weird that we had not spoken, but she had the same vision and saw the same thing. So that was really weird. But like I said, it made me feel comfortable. And then when I went back and started doing research, I actually found a photo of what was considered a Cherokee medicine man. And it looks very, very similar to what I described. And I had never done the research before. So that was kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I had never done the research on that, never seen it before. I couldn't have told you before that night that the Cherokee Nation even had or Cherokee people even had a medicine man. So it was interesting.
So I guess through your blood, they have a connection with you.
I think that's very important. The part of being able to know where you're from, because I think that's I think it's one of the big connections they have. Also knowing, we're all individuals, we're allowed free will. And I think knowing what your intentions are and knowing, they know what your intentions are. They know what your makeup is. They know if you mean harm or if you mean good. And in this particular situation, I mean, I think they knew it was time to show themselves to me for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, like with attachments and stuff, when people get attachments, usually something that they're attracted to within you. So, I mean, that's why I feel with the when it comes to like attachments to somebody. When you come home, I call them travelers. They follow you home. You know, certain things sometimes.
And some of that, for sure. I mean, I think some of it too is just misinterpretation. I think that people, they have things that happen, and then along the way they start sensing that it's maybe something that is negative. You know, when you think about our own personalities, if we were trying to get someone's attention and they were ignoring us, and we had something to tell them, it would frustrate us, and so we would get more angry. You know, I think that can happen sometimes too. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it and think about it, and it's not always such a negative thing to think. You know, it's not a negative thing that's the actual reason for it to be there.
Yeah. That's, you know, when it comes to that, that's interesting how the spirits, how the Indians, you know, the Native Americans.
Yeah.
I'm old school. I still say Indians once in a while.
Oh no, it's fine. It doesn't bother me a bit. And everyone that
I'm not too politically correct.
Listen, I don't get butt hurt either. You know, it's like we go to Hawaii, and Native Hawaiian people will refer to us as haoles, and that's how they refer to white people.
Well, they don't refer to us as haoles.
Well, not refer to us. I mean,
but haole truly means foreigner.
It does.
That's their word for foreigner.
But it's funny because, like, you know, they refer to you as that, and it's you know, people talk about words and intention, and I think that's something that we need to really think about as a society, and don't be so quick to jump on the negative aspect of things. It's a language and a term. You know, it may not be negative anymore. You know, someone may not mean it with the inflection or with the what's the word I'm looking for? The fervor or the intention. You know, it may just be a term for description.
I agree. I think it's all about intention and perception with everything.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Steph, what do you think is the source of your family's gifts, historically speaking?
Historically speaking, I don't know. And I think at this point in time, with how far we've gone from those generations, there might never be an answer. But I do know that a lot of my abilities are linked to the Irish side of myself. Also, I mean, that particular line is also the Italian, but also Egyptian. So those are all cultures that practiced magic pretty regularly and outwardly.
That's right.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's one source. It could be multiple. It could be the three of them that came together at some point. I'll probably never know, but I think digging into that genealogy, like Scott was saying before, it's so important to know where you came from.
Yeah.
Something as simple as knowing what to work with, or knowing, you know, what to call on. A funny example, but a lot of people turn to California white sage to smudge, right? Everybody turns toward it. And it's the funniest thing in the entire world, because Native Americans don't use that for clearing of energy. But a lot of people don't know that. They use sagebrush. A very common thing that happens to our friend Lopaka in Hawaii is they'll say to him, like, why don't you just use sage? He's like, that's not indigenous to my people. Like, it doesn't grow in Hawaii. He's like, so why would I? So he uses what is his ancestors have been using for thousands of years. You know, and we're familiar with those ways too. And I tell people all the time, like, if we're in Hawaii, you have to do it the way the Hawaiians do it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You can't just take what your belief is just randomly and just slap it onto that. So I think knowing where you're going and what they do, and culturally what your ancestors did, there has to be a combination of that, you know, together. So I encourage people to just figure out where they came from. It's so simple to do like an ancestry DNA test or a 23andMe, just to get an idea, especially if you didn't grow up with culture. I was very, very fortunate to grow up in many different cultures. All of my grandparents are straight off the boat from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, it's something that, like, I would go to one grandmother's house and it would be all, Polish. My grandfather was German. And their different cultural traditions. And then on the other side, the Italian and the Irish and, everything intermixed, between that. But it was fascinating. So like, I actually, I spoke fluent Polish when I was a kid, and I thought all that was normal. Like everybody else had that opportunity to just grow up that way and experience that stuff. So I'm very fortunate that I was able to. To be able to experience something like that. So, I don't know. I vote for everybody to do it. If you can figure out where you come from, you might find your magic that way.
I did mine.
Yep.
And there were things in there that I never, ever in a million years would have thought would show up in there.
Yep.
My mom passed away. And I tell people all the time that she would be mind blown if she heard what was on there. Because she was so proud of her Irish heritage, and she wasn't just Irish, but that's all she told anybody she was.
Yep.
And if she heard what was in there, she would really be mind blown. And I'm like super stunned. And like, you still get updates, and I don't think a lot of people realize this. You still get updates when more and more people do theirs. If there's something that wasn't like enough of, like, say, Swedish, if not enough Swedish people did theirs, and it like suddenly shows up as a larger percentage, and you do yours, it'll come in and it'll show that your percentage finally shows up out of the blue.
Yeah. That's like the Native American.
Yeah.
It takes forever for that to show up. So if you do have it, it's really fascinating.
Todd had a super rare form of Jewish, and he's like, I don't even know where this came from. My mother always told us that we were German. And I'm like, well, you're not. You're Jewish.
Right. Yeah, or your family could have come from a country that is known to you, but their ancestors came from a completely different country, and that's where your blood is from.
Yeah.
And you have no idea.
I started my genealogy back in 1986. I used to go to microfiches. I had to go to libraries and all these churches and stuff like that. And I mean, it's colorful. I mean, I'm Sicilian. I know I'm Sicilian because it's the grandparents.
Yeah.
But I got Prussia, Germany.
Yep.
I do have a grandmother that was born in Budapest, Hungary.
Wow.
And I thought it was all Sicilian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, hey, where this guy? Where's she come from? So, like you said, the genealogy is very interesting, and you have to know where your culture is, and especially what we do too. And sometimes it does help.
It does.
It does. Knowing certain cultures, and when you go on investigation, you know what the questions to ask.
Yes.
You know what to do. It's not the same old question. What's your name? And stuff like. But and then another language comes in. You can understand. Well, that's another language. That's German. That's this. Whatever. Because, I grew up in Queens, New York.
No.
So I have, in Queens, New York, was proven that we have every country in the world represented in Queens, New York.
Yep.
So, I mean, I was very going to public schools and stuff like that, I just have friends,
I don't know if have I ever showed you the photo that I dug up. It's a photo of my grandfather. And then it's a photo of Chief Dragon Canoe, who would have been in the late 1700s. But I don't know if you can see the two here. If it's two, here we go.
Oh, yeah, there it goes.
Oh, my gosh, it looks so similar.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy, Porter.
Isn't it, though? So like I found that and I was like, wow, that's absolutely nuts, because I would have never known to look, and then you see, I remember coming across that drawing and I was like, holy cow, I know that face. Then
It's
I thought,
Grandpa.
yeah, it's Grandpa. Holy cow.
Where
From
did he
side to
go?
side. I'm like, man, the genes are strong here. I didn't realize they were that strong.
Grandpa's old. Yeah, it's like, holy cow, what he's like 200 years old?
Pat's been around a while.
That's really
He
awesome.
just flies around the earth. That's good. That's interesting when that happens,
It is, and you see how the gene pool passes through, and you see how the similarities are, and it's funny to see when I look back through family members and you put all of our pictures together. It's how similar that particular aspect passed down through time. No matter who they interacted with or who they had children with, there was some offspring that carried the same similar visual view.
I have a picture of my great grandfather, and it's like a black and white picture, and he's standing with my great grandmother, and he's just kind of, digging up the front yard. They're probably, either burying somebody,
Right.
Probably the first thing. But I see him, and he looks just like my cousin Mark now. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Mark. I sent Mark the picture and he goes, is that me? And I'm like, no.
Right.
And he goes, that's me. And I said, it's just uncanny how you guys look so alike, and they're super, super tall. They have the same lean body, the same jawline, everything. Mm-hmm. And see that, then you can see how it traces back to like my grandfather, and then kind of like my dad, but more like my Aunt Linda. I mean, she's not a male, but
right.
His mom, and then him. And I'm like, this is amazing how crazy similar they all look.
If you know that genealogy and you do what we do and you investigate, it makes you can come up with things in certain locations that may resonate more with those entities and those spirits that might promote greater interaction and more comfortable interactions.
Yeah.
So,
but the questions and everything. It's very, I mean, I since I got into the paranormal, I was never into like, any history. Nothing. I thought history going to school. I feel all that history classes. Yeah. Then you get to go into these locations where 300-year-old buildings or more, and you go in there and like, wow, the history that's here. Wow, and then you start looking up, and I'm a retired electrician, so I go in and look at structures also. They go in to see how these buildings are built and everything, and the history and how they built it back then with axes and hammers and the nails. There wasn't like sometimes there wasn't even nails. They were just dowels and everything. And amazed and how everything is. So
or they used flat nails back then, the big flat nails. Never think about that, but they're starting to find that if you find a flat nail, it's from a different time period, and that's how long ago it was.
1800s. Well, yeah, it's interesting. And then with the genealogy, then you go into locations and you see how your family was raised and brought up, and and then you go into these locations and you're like, the questions, like I said before, the questions to ask, the EVPs, the right stuff.
Yeah,
it does help. And then before I got into that, I got into my ghost hunting and stuff like that. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I got into my genealogy. I got into all this stuff afterwards. So because it was interesting about them.
I think it's so important for people. You study history in school and you read about these places and these things that happened. But I think it's so important for students, children, or whomever to go out and actually stand in these locations, touch these buildings, touch these touch the piece of Plymouth Rock if you can find it, and just to be there. I mean, I can remember the first time I held a document that was signed by George Washington. and you're in a dark room with a red light, and you've got little white gloves on, and everything's all dim. It's. But I mean, to do something like that, and what it makes your mind go back to and think about, and all of those things that you learned about in school suddenly become real. It's not just a story in a book. These are real people. These are real things that happened and real adversity. And I think that one thing that the paranormal does is it really brings that together for people. It makes it interesting. It brings it home. It connects it to them personally through their genealogy. And you also have some pretty outstanding supernatural experiences that go along with it.
Yeah. So you guys have anything coming up? Let's get into that hour soon,
Oh.
You guys have anything coming up?
We're working on stuff.
Yeah.
Always working on something.
Our entire lives, that's just wear t-shirts that say that we're working on it. Because
one of the things that we love to do, we love to get access to locations that no one's ever had access to before. Yeah. We love to go in and help historical locations, of course, raise money to keep those places open and help keep them maintained. But we're always meeting with someone somewhere trying to help or try to facilitate getting access to a location that is very intriguing. And right now we have 2 or 3 that we're really close to getting sorted out. Yeah. That are extremely important in the history of our nation. And we're in our final steps of getting access. So keep an eye out on our social media for those to come out, because they will be limited. I am sure. And we actually have one that we think we're going to get access to, that we're going to have to investigate it, but then we're going to have to either record it or stream it live, because we can't have a lot of people in this location because it is so historically significant. So I love dropping those teasers.
That sounds
Yeah, we're always working on something. And of course, you can keep up on our social media because we post everything there. We post to our Patreon first and then publicly, a few days after that. But just we're doing our usual. We're always working, always trying to keep history alive. And we'll at least see you guys at the Bash again, hopefully, in July.
This year.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm going on vacation to West with my kids.
How dare you?
I know.
How dare you have a life outside the paranormal?
I know.
What's going on?
But I would love to see you guys out someplace. I'd love to go investigating with you anytime.
Well, hopefully we can figure out somewhere. I know we always try to do something, so yeah, I'm sure it'll be.
Love investigating with you
guys come up over here, the Northeast.
Yep. Is this like a gang sign for the Sicilian?
So it was a gang. It was like.
Yep. I'm in the Northeast, so I don't have to travel far. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're in Mass, so I'll give you
yeah. Yep.
And don't forget that Stephanie has the Society, and she's also a Reiki master, teacher. Oh my God, what don't you do, girl? She does public investigations. She's a co-host of podcast Spooky South Coast. She works with the historical societies. She does everything. And Porter, he's running the farm in Tennessee.
That's it.
He's him.
40 episodes of shows.
He's just ridiculously good looking and bald. That's all.
Yeah, that's cool.
Start a calendar again.
Life. Why not? Get you through life. Why not? Being good looking and bald.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's it. Good looking and bald. There's nothing wrong with that.
Get you through life. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Look at this.
I'm not totally, but
you get there.
I could be.
Bro, I will bring you a razor. Just embrace it. It's all good. Join the club.
Yeah, I know. What's his name? Ernie always says that to me. Come join the club.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Just shake it off at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it will set you free. There's no more windblown hair. There's no more bedhead. I mean, you're so close. Just join us.
I think a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm close, but I don't know. I don't want to get up every day and have to shave my hair. I'm lazy. I barely shave.
You just
No.
I'm
can't let it
retired.
go.
I'm just like,
Well,
Eh,
besides being bald, you have many talents. He actually does a society with me. That's our Patreon page.
yeah.
So
Nice.
we post all of our secret adventures there and all of the top secret squirrel information that we don't post publicly, and then sometimes we do post publicly, but later. So
okay.
Be
Yeah.
there. Go and join then.
Go and
Yes.
join that. I'm always doing something around here, farming, working on houses, or doing something here.
We do stuff. We just
I
wrote
do-
a book.
I do normal stuff. We just wrote a book.
Yeah.
Well, I
you
say
go.
we wrote a book. We put together a book that is really cool because it's an investigation book. So you get to it's one of those things where you can record certain aspects of the investigation that
Yes.
could be pertinent, like weather, temperature, who's there, location, experiments tried. It's got a place for notes. But one of the really cool things in the book that we added was we have our little pet ghost, and he is studying about the living, and it's all these little sayings that kind of look back and kind of make us think as investigators, like, well, that was something I probably shouldn't have said, because
But how he perceives us.
how he perceives us is very intriguing.
Yeah.
And so on each in each investigation, I refer to him as Gregory. But we're not really sure if that's his name or not, but that's just what he seems
I mean,
like
at
to
this
me.
point, you
At
just
this
keep calling
point,
him that.
he's
So it is
Gregory
what
the
it
Ghost.
is.
But on each investigation page that you have when you start a new one, he's at the top and he's studying his books, and he has an epiphany that's above him in his little bubble, and it's one of the great ones that I absolutely
Don't
love.
ruin it.
Okay, I won't.
Don't ruin it.
They're so some of them are so twisted. It's just amazing. So you
Yeah.
have to get it, and it's available on Amazon. And
Yeah,
we'll
we have the
it
link
on-
for that somewhere eventually,
Yeah.
publicly
We're-
this
we're-
week.
So
What's the name of the book?
Ghost Notes.
Ghost Notes?
Ghost Notes.
Nice.
It's very simple. Yeah.
I like
It is.
So,
I mean, I sometimes think about that. If anything happens to us and we're on the other side, do we investigate the living?
that's right.
Yeah. Can you?
Yeah, I
Why not?
Could be.
Will be the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, the others.
One of his little books that when you look at him and see him, one of his little books he's reading is How to Scare a Human in 10 Days.
Aww.
Oh, that's good.
Love it.
Yep.
Modern Haunting. There's all kinds of good little things up there that he's reading.
Okay.
Do you know you're dead, and other silly things the living ask.
That actually is funny.
Yeah,
So,
we tried to put our humor in there for sure,
Yeah.
but we wanted a place where people could just record what's happening, because nobody ever remembers what happens on an investigation. But getting back to the core of what investigating was when I entered it, rather than just the half-baked paranormal investigating that people do now, because they see a 30-minute TV show and they think that that's all that goes into it. So we wanted to be able to teach people,
That's
like,
awesome.
start from scratch. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ask what their favorite song is, or what dating was like back then, or
Yeah.
whatever.
So
We always think outside the box when we do investigations.
Yep.
And now that's one of our main things. Think outside the box.
and now
Yeah.
we have a lot more coming after that, but we're always
Yes.
busy. If you don't hear from us, we have our heads in a iPad somewhere working on something and trying to make magic happen. So just expect a lot of announcements coming soon.
That's good, because you guys are two of my favorite people.
Well, thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
We're just a couple of weirdos.
Oh, well, same.
Well,
Yeah.
And my husband said hello, by the way.
Oh,
Oh,
well, tell
well,
him we said hi.
I'm the
Yes,
king of the
for sure.
weirdos.
Absolutely.
You can ask anybody. I'm the king of the weirdos. So,
There you
Love
go.
it.
so yeah, hey, yeah, well, so we all fit in. We all fit together.
We're all good.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I wish we had more time. I could talk to you forever.
We'll just have
Yeah.
to do it again. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. We didn't even get to all the questions, and I'm sorry, guys. I was yelled at for that by someone
no.
else.
Well, if you tell us where they are, I can try to go in and just answer them in a comment.
You could just go to
Is
The
it on
dimension-
the video?
page and or a little witchy or Anthony's Seekers of the the paranormal, and everybody's questions are all there. I think we
Perfect.
got to why is the dark matter of the universe black? That was the next question. And Goofy, so funny, could you post a list of your random questions somewhere periodically while you're lying in bed? I do that all night too. So
I don't know if the world could handle that,
yeah,
Yeah.
good ones.
but we could probably start a series.
If
Yeah.
there was a zombie apocalypse, would sharks be zombies?
I hope not.
Hmm.
I have a thing about sharks. They're in the same category as aliens.
Are octopi actually alien life forms?
They have to be. They squish into holes too small for them to fit through.
Correct.
So do cats, though.
And mice.
Nice.
See, we could do this. We're gonna have to have a part 2 on this one.
We got to. We got
Yeah.
to.
And what are X's?
Yeah.
What are X?
What are X's? Like ex-wife's ex.
Absolutely the same category as alien.
They
You mean,
should.
what category?
Yeah.
They
Same
definitely should.
category as aliens and zombie
Yeah.
sharks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't complain. Mine's not that horrible, but
Yeah.
You could share mine then. Well, guys, thank you so much. I don't want to keep you any later. You look exhausted, but thank you so much for being here, and we love you so much.
Oh,
no,
love you guys.
we love you guys. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Anytime, we love you. And I'm sorry we'll miss you.
Get to my bit.
Oh, you guys
Okay, hold
froze.
on, here we go.
Hey, how you doing?
This was another Thursday night on Dimensions of the Supernatural. Catch us every Thursday, 7:30 to 9:30, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. And remember, be safe out there. You want to look for ghosts and not be a ghost. Ciao, familiar. Forget about it.
Hey.